Welcome to this edition of Trading Bits and Bytes. I'm Susan Littlefield on location at the Nebraska Cattlemen's Classic, which is taking place at the Buffalo County Fairgrounds. And you can probably hear quietly in the background the auctioneer as the bulls are being sold right now. Jeff Peterson's joining us today with Heartland Farm Partners. And first and foremost, let's look at this market. What are you seeing this week to kind of set the trends?
Well, you know what we were concerned about is we get to this time of year and there's not a lot of new information coming in that's positive sometimes, and that's kind of what we're seeing. We get little bounces, but overall, we know the speculative traders are still short on corn and on soybeans. They're trying to buy a little bit of wheat, but they tried to bounce it this week, and then all of a sudden the market just went ahead and fell apart and just headed back down lower. So those are some of the things that we're looking at right now, Susan.
The outlook forum that's going underway right now, is that having any play into the markets?
It really is. Everybody was hoping that they'd come out with some numbers that would be supportive, and the numbers they've came out with are about like the baseline. They lowered the corn acres a little bit down to 94 million, raised the soybeans up 1 million to 85 million, kept beans unchanged. The real fireworks could happen tomorrow, and there's a lot of discussion on how that's going to turn out. Tomorrow, coming out of the outlook meeting, will actually be the balance sheets, and that's where they actually get in and talk about what are the demand factors. But part of the thing we run into there, some people are hoping that they'll factor in some of the information from the phase one trade deal. And if they did that, that would go ahead and make our ending stocks much lower than a lot of people think. But personally, I don't think they're going to. Just kind of seeing how USDA works, how WSDA works in other reports, and the fact that they said back in the February crop report that they were not going to incorporate into phase one. This is different for the outlook meeting, but I don't think they'll factor in much for change on the demand side.
Is there going to be any questioning when it comes to these acreage numbers as time gets discussed about it?
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of questioning about that. One of the first questions is going to come when we get to the end of March and you talk about the planning intentions or prospective planning. A lot of people are going to say, well, were some of the people that were prevent plant last year, did they come in too low on acres because they just don't want to fight it and they're not sure what they're going to get planted because they are so wet? And then others are going to say, well, are the others on the other side of that are going to plant a lot of corn? Is that going to bring the number in too high? So there's going to be a lot of debate about that, and that answer won't come around until we actually get out to the end of June then and look at what the planted acreage report is.
Phase one continues to be discussed. We're a month out and month and a week now into this whole agreement. Where do we go from here?
Well, what we're hoping to see is we're hoping to see some purchases come forward. We haven't seen that yet. It was rumored that China may have been in and picked up a little bit of grain sorghum, but we haven't seen anything more than that so far. They are checking prices on a number of ag goods, so that's good. Our biggest concern, Susan, as we look back over time, though, is we're having a hard time understanding how, with increases in production in South America, decreases in demand numbers out of Brazil, how the U.S. is able to gain enough market share, especially when the U.S. dollar is as strong as it is, going back to the Brazilian real and also the Argentine peso. So I'm not sure that we're going to see down the road enough demand to keep the market excited, and that's where we're a little bit worried that this could put some pressure longer term on the market.
I was wondering, we talked about that during the final bell on Thursday. Is there some nervousness that's going to continue to build up in the marketplace?
There is going to be a lot of nervousness, and that nervousness is coming a little bit differently than normal years. The nervousness in this is coming not because they're trying to decide if they can make profit in corn or beans. They know they can't make any money on soybeans, and so what everybody from the farmer side is hoping is that we get a bounce in corn. As I talk to farmers, I don't think, honestly, a lot of them think the market's going to go higher. I think a lot of them are hoping the market's going to go higher down the road.
And finally, coronavirus. It continues to be discussed. We know it's having its effects like it is in China and globally. How much of that's going to be factored into the next couple of weeks for this market?
Well, it just puts a wet blanket. So you take a combination of that and the fact that the funds are short, and that just kind of tamps down this market, because it's not so much that we think we're going to kill off enough people that it's going to ruin the demand. The concern is that the efforts that all the different countries are trying to make to go ahead and control this are keeping a lot of people away from buying. It's keeping a lot of people away from working. And then anytime you see that happening, it makes it so that we don't have as much demand. And then it also doesn't make anybody that excited to go ahead and buy.
Well, thanks for joining us on location today.
You bet. It was very fun.
Jeff Peterson's been joining us for this week's edition of Trading Bits and Bytes, again at the Buffalo County Fairgrounds, as the Cattlemen's Classic is underway.